Hey fam and friends. It feels weird to record a video, but at the same time it doesn't feel weird because like life as adults is so busy that we don't always get to hang out and chat with our friends and socialize as often as we'd like. It's super important to do, but it's not always that easy. So hopefully we can all pretend we're sitting here having a cup of tea together and hanging out. Today I wanted to share a story, and I might as well call this like the complex PTSD chronicles or something, because it's pretty much story of my life, and most of my tea has to do with how my bestie CPTSD has shown up and pulled some drama and done some shit. So let's talk about something that happened very recently, probably within the last month. And hopefully through talking about it, if you have no clue what it's like to have complex PTSD or some kind of trauma, that you'll learn from this so that you can better understand your own friends who do, or like, I don't know, from novice to advanced healer teacher, like whether it's healing yourself or helping heal other people or just being a good friend. I feel like the more of us that understand it, the better we'll be able to help and understand the people around us. Second, if you do have the same shit, heart goes out to you. You're a badass and a baller. Having complex PTSD or having had it and learning how to rebuild your life after it is a journey and a fucking half. I hope all of that made sense. Before I hit record, I feel like everything is so logical and order and like bing bang boom, but as soon as I hit record, I start going like, but that's me. So anyway, let me start on this story. And first of all, thank you to everyone on my Instagram who said they actually wanted to hear like the full versions of stories with me. I fucking love you because I love to share my stories. It's got to be part of my soul mission calling, because what kind of a fucking psycho likes to sit around and just air their laundry? Apparently I do. But I don't say that to like talk badly about myself. It's like I see that as an asset, as a positive feature of who I am as a person, not a flaw. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into the tale. So I've mentioned here and there that against my will or against my knowledge, but unbeknownst to me, I got sucked into a cult. And cults like to act really loving and sweet and normal at the beginning. So, like, somebody that is highly intelligent can still get sucked in. In my case, I got married. And it turns out in this cult that once you get married, that's when they pull the curtain back and you find out the truth. And you find out what the real rules are and what's actually expected of you and all the fucking bullshit that goes on everywhere. But not only did I get married, I got married to somebody with a widower with kids. So now I didn't just have the debate in my mind of like, do I stay married because marriage is forever? I now had two innocent beings who believed, who needed me and who I had made a commitment to. So I say that to say, I promise you, I'm not a fucking dumbass who was like, we would live. No. A perfect storm transpired, and here I was. And I did my best. So anyway, I was there and I'll get to the story in a minute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a pause on this little background piece that I was in a cult for a very long time. And I'll come back to it. I probably led with a detail. Maybe you'll connect the dots as I tell my next story as to why I mentioned I was in a cult. Even though I didn't want to be. So recently, about a month ago, and also real quick, part of the reason I want to share this story is obviously because, it's fun to talk, but I think it's a really good example of how sneaky trauma can be, because you can be going about your business and logically there is no reason around you to get upset, anxious, triggered, whatever. But somewhere registered in your system and your subconscious is a set of color by numbers picture, where you connect the dots and you draw a painting. And in your system, that little combination of dots is like ingrained and embedded. And now when you walk around life, anytime there is the same combination of dots for painting a particular picture, your body and your subconscious will be like, right? So even though in your mind, I'm like, this isn't that painting. I did that years ago. This is something completely different. However, for whatever reason, it has the same color by numbers little pattern, and your body and your subconscious will pick it up and it'll fucking activate. So bear with me. I always take the long way around to tell a story. I went to a house party. And I don't mean like a house party with red Solo cups where everybody's getting sloshed. I mean like a sweet, like cute family house party. Grandma's there, husbands, wives, kids, friends, fam. And because I live in a big city, I live in Dallas, I managed to go to a party where there were a couple of people there that I actually really, really, really looked up to. And amazing, fantastic people. They were so sweet to me. They actually recognized me, knew who I was, went out of their way to chat with me, talk with me, make me feel special, and blah, 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 blah. But I'm here at this party. I'm having a grand old time. And there are several things that start running, like in a computer, like a tab and another tab and another tab and another tab gets open. One, I'm talking to this one couple or this one gal, and I'm telling you, I'm having a really good time. It just felt so good to be invited into someone's home. People don't really do that here in America very much. By the way, I used to live in Australia for like 15 years. That's a whole nother story. And so it just felt nice to be invited into someone's home, to be chatting with people about like family and home related things. This gal was telling me about this house that they just bought. She's like disappointed with some things about it, but she's really excited about others. They're renovating the outside. They're gonna, they have a young baby, and it was just so nice to have these kinds of conversations. But I had some emotions around those topics. So one hand, it was super fun, and I loved being able to talk about something that connected to an old chapter of my life where, I had my own home. I had friends with their own homes. We talked about, buying and selling a home, growing, developing, this, that, or the other. Just certain kinds of conversations that for whatever reason in my life here now, I never have with anybody. That's a whole other topic of conversation. So already it just feels good on one hand, but also I'm like having this feeling of like, damn, it's been a long time since I've been able to have these conversations with people. And it felt good, but it also felt like, I started to feel a pang for that sensation of like something's been missing out of my life for a really long time. Like I mentioned, I was a parent for a long time. There's another surprise about me. And so it was nice to just be in that situation again with other parents and kids and things like that, and having those conversations, because they're just like, it's really nice. It's just, if you haven't never had that, there's just something really nice about it, because like, who doesn't, like, kids are kids. And I don't know, I'm bunny trailing. Let me get, okay, focus back to the center, right? I'm socializing, I'm doing well, but as the day and the event progresses, and I'm having conversations with some of the people that I said, I look up to, and I'm like, oh wow, I'd love to take a page out of their book, kind of a deal. And I feel really comfortable with, because I've been made to feel so loved, welcomed, and included. I'm also, happy to be there, proud of myself to be there, and making friends. But I start to feel myself getting hyper and talking. And that is a quality of mine, is that I, like, once you get the motor mouth going, it's hard to slow it down. And I do see that as a quality most of the time. I'm working on it. But I was not seeing it as a quality, I think, deep down inside at this party. Because at first I was like, wow, I'm having so much fun. I feel like I haven't had this much fun in so freaking long. I'm in a scenario that I've missed, and I'm like here, and like it feels good. And so I'm talking, and I'm getting hyper, because that is kind of my personality. It's I can get kind of like, not life of the party, but like maybe a little bit. And a little bit in the back of my mind, I start to feel like I feel really overstimulated, but I wasn't conscious yet. I was feeling overstimulated. I was talking a lot, and it just kind of was growing. I was feeling really anxious and stressed. But I was converting it in the moment in my mind as me just being a little bit nervous, being in front of people I looked up to. And I just put it down to, I've spent so many years being like locked up at home with my complex PTSD, not really socializing, that I've just forgotten what it's like to socialize. That's kind of like, I don't know if this happens to you, but this is happening in the back of my mind. In the front of my mind, I'm just trying to hold down a conversation. And I was doing really, really good for her first half of the party. But I feel like the second half, this may not be true. But in retrospect, the way I would describe it is a little bit like a train starting to go off the rails. Like a little too much. And that is a belief that I have sometimes that I'm working through, is that I'm too much, I'm too loud. I talk too much. I say all the wrong things. I'm like clueless about stuff. Those beliefs run on autopilot, and they were starting to come up unbeknownst to me at this event. Bear with me. I promise there's more. And so I didn't catch it, but my nervous system deep down inside was starting to really ramp up and get activated. Again, I thought I was just having a good time. And maybe getting a little hyper just because it felt so good to be like talking again in a social situation like this. Great night. said goodbye. I probably stayed a little too long, but whatever. I just was having such a good time. Go home. I'm doing the dishes, and I put on Love on the Spectrum, which is a show about some really, really beautiful souls who are on the spectrum. And something about the show started to trigger the fuck out of me. I couldn't settle. I'm feeling really anxious doing the dishes. I'm starting to have, like, my thoughts are spiraling. I'm starting to have, like, ruminating thoughts. And I honestly couldn't even pinpoint what they were about. And then Love on the Spectrum, I started spiraling about how I, quote unquote, behaved at this house party. And I started judging myself for how I talked, that I took too much of the stage, of like the talking stage. I didn't ask certain people enough about themselves. I didn't take enough time to make sure everyone was feeling, like that they were all having a good time, that I wasn't like hogging up attention or hogging up time. You know what I mean? Like these are the weird thoughts I was having. And I, somehow those connect the dots paintings, somehow my internal nervous system, when I was watching Love on the Spectrum, connected those two. That somehow something about the social anxiety or struggles that these kids have was starting to trigger me, because I was feeling like I was having social struggles. And so I started having like insane surges of anxiety. Like, if you haven't had panic attacks or major trauma or things like that, it's literally adrenaline rushes. I'm just minding my business trying to watch a very cute, positive show. And I'm getting these massive adrenaline surges where I start feeling like this. Like you can just feel the adrenaline, and I couldn't focus on the dishes, and I had to turn the show off, and I tried to put on a different show, and it wouldn't calm me down. I had to turn the TV off. I was like, well, I need to not add stimulation. And so I finished the dishes and I try to get on with my day. And I'm a little stressed, as I said. So luckily, my best friend, and I have many best friends, and I love all of them, but I have one best friend who's literally like my soulmate best friend from when I was 14. We met, and it was like a soul knowing. We were best friends ever since. Telepathically connected, all that kind of stuff. So she calls me. We start talking, and she wanted to ask me, oh, how did the house party go? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, it was great. I was like, but, and I talked to her, and I'm taking you through a journey of realization, and I just bear with me, because I'll come back and I'll explain all the points on the journey. And I'm telling her how this event went, and she immediately understood my social anxiety concerns that I had. Because what happened is I got married so ridiculously young and lived the life of like a 40-year-old when I was 20 for a stretch of time. That was my 20s. So I learned everything you learn as like your late 30s, 40s, 30s, whatever. I did that at early 20s. And I skipped a lot of life experiences, like dating. I didn't really date because I was doing the whole I did grow up in church. Like, it was a wonderful church. It was not a cult, but it did have the purity culture thing, and that was partly more my mom than the church. But anyway, that's another conversation. So I didn't really date in my teens either. So things like dating later in life, I was making the kind of like gooey-eyed or silly or girly mistakes or learning curves that you have when you're 16, right? And I'm having them past my 20s, like well and truly into an adulthood. I had to learn how to pay my bills myself. How to navigate certain situations with normal people instead of cult people. Like, there was just a lot of growing up that relates to the things that you learn in like your early 20s. I didn't learn them. I skipped. So now it's like I'm living in reverse. Now I'm an older gal, and you would think that I'd behave a certain way and talk a certain way, but sometimes I do talk like I'm 16, 17, 18, early 20s. And other times I talk like I'm an ancient sage mystic who's lived 300 years. And she immediately understood this about me, and she talked to me about it, and it just felt really good to be seen and understood what it's like to, and I'm choking up a little. I clearly still have emotions around this to heal and resolve, and that's okay. It's a journey. So that felt good to be understood. Okay, it's all right. It is what it is. This is how I grew up. This was the collection of my life experiences. And it is what it is. So that's phase 1. Well, actually, maybe phase 2. Phase 1 was being triggered by love on the spectrum. Phase 2 was having this conversation with my friend, where through our friendship, I was able to like feel like I could acknowledge myself and the experiences I had, and have a little compassion and understanding for myself. However, that was not enough. There was a much bigger fish cooking on the back burner. This was this a Saturday? I don't even remember. A Saturday, a Sunday, a Friday? I don't even remember what day of the week it was. At least 2 days later, my anxiety around this issue continued to grow into a heightened crescendo. I think it was like Tuesday. It was a Tuesday night, and I'm still super fucking unsettled. Nothing worked. Nothing. I tried a few of my usual tools that I use on the regular. Nothing. I was like, you know what? Maybe I just need to quit trying to let me read a book. I couldn't focus on my book. It was like, it's like there was bugs around biting me or something. Like I just could not settle. And I couldn't sleep the previous couple of nights. I woke up a whole lot because of the anxiety. This is what it's like. It may not have been like a level 10 panic attack, but I had essentially started having a low-grade panic attack from halfway through the house party, through the weekend, to now it was like Tuesday. And it was getting worse because I was not giving it the level of attention it needed. And so what had happened was, I at this point realized, holy shit, I've had a 2 or 3 day long panic attack. Now you have to understand, I have lived for years with such massive panic attacks. Like I've learned how to like exist with ongoing panic attacks. It only became a problem when it was like an absolute breakdown level panic attack, or a almost complete disassociation. Like disassociation is kind of like, if you're driving and you get somewhere and you're like, holy shit, how many How many intersections did I pass? Did I run a red light? Like, how did I get here alive? That's where you get so sucked in your thoughts and out of the present moment that you're disassociating. If you're a really clumsy person and you tend to like slip down the stairs, drop things, break things, bump into things, that's a very, very baby level version of disassociating, because you're not in your body and you're like off in your thoughts. You're not here. You're somewhere else mentally. And that can also get to varying degrees of severity. I lived like that for a long time. Feels like you have a cow taser on you. That's what I would call a 10 out of 10 panic attack. It feels like not a regular taser, a fucking cow prod is what that feels like. Most of the time, this level of panic attack, I would just say it's almost like if you could dial down the power of a taser and you just have a very, very low grade taser going. And so you're just like, you're just doing your best, but you're pumping with adrenaline and you got something zapping you. That's what it feels like. And now, several days later, none of my regular tools were working, and this was where I was at. And that's when I realized, and this is where I hope you, if you take anything away from this today, please take this gem. I'm wrapping it in a gift and giving it to you. It actually means so much to me. I feel like I could cry right now. I realized I needed to pull out my trauma therapy tools. And you know what it is? It's actually really simple. It's some physical movements to help you get not only back in your body, get out of this spiral, but to get back in your body and tell your body that it's safe and you can settle down and get grounded. Because if you can't get in your body and if you can't settle, you're not just disconnected from your body, you're disconnected from your inner compass, from your intuition, from your secret magical knowing, where your soul and your body is connected to the source of all life, to the infinite creator. Right? We're always connected to that. But if you can't settle down, it's almost like you're overpowered and you can't hear it or feel it. So you lose your guidance system, for one. Number two, it feels like fucking shit. And that's just how important it is to be able to get in your body. And they're actually so simple, but most of us don't realize how powerful they are. And we don't realize like how much the body needs us sometimes, that to tell it that it's okay. And once we can get to where the body relaxes and downshifts out of that panic state, and there's various signs that you're downshifting out of that panic state. One of them is like you start to exhale. That's your body shifting gears, down another gear and down another gear. Your body starts to relax. Your mind stops freaking out. And I'll explain some of this stuff at the end. So anyway, I did the physical. I was like, oh my God, I haven't had to do this in years. But I'm going to tell you what caused it. And it wasn't that, I felt embarrassed about being like, a little teedly bopper in an adult body. Sure, that was a thing. Sure, I had these other thoughts, feelings, and emotions, but those were like up here. Those were, well, I wouldn't say up here. I would say that's one aspect, There's various facets going on to look at. That's one of them, was emotions and beliefs I had that I didn't realize were kind of running on autopilot all the time until this situation brought it to my attention. And I can work on those, and I've worked on them a lot. So like, I feel I already, my beliefs around myself are much better than they used to be. But what had happened was let me just finish the physical part. So I realized I needed to go get my yoga mat, and I needed to, I can't remember, this was like 9 o'clock at night. I was like desperately trying to calm down and go to bed. No, actually it was later. It was like midnight. And it just wasn't happening. And I went and got my mat out. And I used to, back in the beginning of the trauma healing days, I used to have to do this for like an hour. But you have to understand, I was like at a really intense level. Most people won't have to do this long. I worked on it for about 20-30 minutes this time. And that was enough to release all the gears, to release myself out of this heightened state, and to soothe my body down and get back in my body. And it only took me 20-30 minutes from a days-long low-grade panic attack. I wouldn't call it anxiety. I would actually say it was a low-grade panic attack for several days. And once upon a time, I did not understand that was my state of being. So I share this in case anyone doesn't realize that they're actually walking around with a low-grade panic attack all the time. And it is possible to exit it. Now, at the beginning of my healing journey, I did go to a therapist, and I did EMDR therapy. And she had me do an 8-week yoga course, which was specifically for trauma. It was a trauma-informed yoga therapy, where for an hour every week, this particular instructor would work us through these exercises so that by the end, we were fully back in our bodies. Freaking insane. One that will have to be a story for another day. But fast forward to now, where I've done so much work, it only took 20-30 minutes. But sometimes it is important to work on basic tools, because living in this society is kind of crazy, and we need to be able to support our bodies and tell ourselves that we're safe and communicate to the body that you're safe. Once you settle down and can communicate to the body that you're safe, then you can start working on healing stuff and thinking about things and working journal. If you haven't settled your body, journaling ain't gonna do fucking shit. If you're having a low-grade panic attack, this is step one. Then go journal. Then go do all the other tools to work through your things. And that's what I did. So 20-30 minutes. I felt so much better. I was exhaling. I felt like my body letting go and releasing, and the panic attack leaving. And, I've trained my body over time that it's safe. And so that's why it was pretty quick, 20-30 minutes. But it's funny how I resisted doing that for a while. That's another thing, is if I can encourage anyone to maybe not resist some of this stuff, like, it's just so healing and life altering. Give it a go, and give it a go often enough so that when a moment comes that you really need it, it's actually faster and more effective for you. Once I was calm, once I felt 100,000 times better, and I'm laying there in Shavasana or whatever I was doing, maybe it was baby pose, I can't remember. No, I was laying on my back at this point, and I was breathing calmly, and I was fine. That's when I was able to ask my higher self and check in with my intuition and ask, what is this about? Because once you can ask what something is about, then you can work on shifting it so that it doesn't repeat again. And it's kind of like that pattern that your body memorized. It's kind of like you've been able to go and delete it out of the system. It's not there anymore. That is 100% possible. I wouldn't be able to sit here and talk like I am right now if I hadn't been able to heal my complex PTSD the way that I did. Right now, what I'm just working on is learning how to live beyond it and rebuild my life. But anyway, here's what it really was. All those were details and aspects. My body thought it was back in a very specific type of situation that I was often put in that cult. Was it true? No. I was 100% in a wonderful, happy environment with wonderful people that I wasn't going to see again. Like, where's the culty control in that? Like, I'm not going to see any of these people. I have no, when I was in the cult, there were a lot of rules, particularly if you were married, on what you could and couldn't do. And you were stuck in this one church and in this one town for all of your life, unless you became pastors, and then you could move and go somewhere else and do something else. You couldn't do all these things. Okay, so I paint that picture to say that I was fully trapped. Literally no getting away. Or so I believed, like, within the parameters of the church. And again, I'm married with kids. I have more than just myself to think about. I often did a lot of things because I was thinking about them. So what would happen is, as leaders, if you were married and you were wanted to have a shot in hell at being able to fucking leave that town and do anything else, you had to become a pastor. So you had to obey all the rules that qualified you for becoming a pastor. And there's just story after story after story after story after story after story of how they embed that and drill it into you and control you with it. And I, despite my best efforts at being sweet and demure, fucking don't fit that bill. So the amount of times that I got called into the pastor's office, lectured, I had pastors come to my fucking house and sit my own ass down at my own dinner table to tell me about all the people in the church complaining about me because I wasn't following the rules and doing shit right. I was called, this is very common in churches. If you don't behave, not in churches, sorry, in cults, if you don't behave, you get called a Jezebel. Just like the worst insult ever, apparently. You get called, that you're doing as the sin of witchcraft, that you're a rebel. A rebel is the sin of witchcraft, is what they would say. There's this old scripture there that says something about, like, to that effect in the Old Testament, that rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. So, all kinds of names, all kinds of situations, all kinds of control. When I finally had left that cult, there was one situation we went to, like, I saw it as rescuing the kids and getting them into a healthier environment. So I finally was able to go to a good church. But my ex at the time decided to get involved with the leadership at that church. And I'm going to give you an example of a situation here. So I thought I was free. I was in a good church. All the rules no longer applied. But in this meeting, which was like for people who wanted to be involved in ministry and discipleship and helping other people in the church, it was innocent. They were not saying any of the same bullshit. But what happened to me? I could not, like, the level of panic attack was starting to, like, they probably thought I was demon possessed because I could not sit still. Like, a level 10 panic attack was imminently loading in this particular moment. And it was bad. They started coming to pray for me. It was so sweet, I was like, they're never going to understand why I am feeling the way I feel. I didn't understand how I felt. I didn't understand why I was like, couldn't sit still. I still didn't fully comprehend panic attacks yet at that time. My body And my subconscious mind thought I was in that scenario again, because it was the first time since I've been back in America and since I've been healing and living my life that I was in a room and in a situation with people I actually looked up to. And it doesn't matter that the reality is that they're just people I look up to, and that's all. Like, the period, it ends there. The extent of things end there. My subconscious and my body believed that I was once again in a room with like pastors, with leaders, with people who it mattered what they thought of me, because what people thought of me had very serious consequences. Like, very serious consequences. And I didn't catch it at the time, but that's what was happening. It was the first time I was being exposed to a similar scenario for me to have this kind of trigger. And I haven't had a scenario like this to trigger that feeling or that embedded body memory to come up and to react. It's a very thick neurological pathway that I developed in my body that's neurons in your brain, and then they connect to the rest of you and communicate to the rest of your body. Your body also in turn communicates to the neurons in your brain and all these pathways. So it didn't matter that logically I knew I was in a happy, wonderful, safe situation. I was actually really proud of myself for being in that room. I've obviously been healing and working and living my life enough that I'm like here again. That doesn't matter. The neurological pathways and physical reactions were still there to some extent because I had never worked on those ones. They were allowed to because I was never in a situation triggering me like that. I avoided churches. I made sure not to put myself in those positions. So I wasn't exposed to anything that would trigger that until this sweet little innocent house party. I was all over again. It's like I was in that discipleship meeting and in that leadership meeting, and my mind and body freaked out over stuff that I've forgotten about. Like, I don't even think about this shit hardly ever. Oh my God, you guys, we're already at 42 minutes. I told you I talk a lot. Anyway, that is why I was having a days-long panic attack. Was it as bad as the one when I was in that church and I started low-key convulsing? I mean, I wasn't convulsing, but kind of. No, because I'd done so much healing already, but it wasn't 100% resolved. On top of that, I'm kind of busy. I have long work days. I'm still working through this belief where I don't have enough time to do stuff. I'm working through it. Patience. I have a lot of things I'm working through. Your bitch has been through a lot. So there's a pile of laundry to work through, so to speak. And the following weekend, I had a wedding with one of my really, really, really close friends that I absolutely adore. So I flew out of state, went to the wedding, and the whole week because I hadn't really worked through all the emotions because I was busy, they were kind of sitting there down here, and I was carrying them with me to the wedding, to the fun, to everything that was going on. And I still had a good time, but I could definitely tell I was being very low energy. I was very demure and well behaved that whole weekend. I wonder why. Because of that trigger, because I hadn't worked through it 100%. I had settled my body down and I connected to my intuition enough to understand what it was really about, and I worked through it to a degree, but I still had more to work through. So anyway, I'm at this wedding. and I'm having a wonderful time. But I had other cult related emotions come up at the wedding. One was, once the dance party part of the night started happening, there were some group dances that I didn't know how to do. Why didn't I know how to do them? Oh, because a bitch got sucked into a cult at a really young age, and I missed out on all the things that people my age were doing at that time. I skipped to the end of the game and was a house lady with kids. But thankfully there were some really cute couples there. Like one of the couples, because you know how you're like doing a dance and you're turning around, and sometimes I was on the corner, so sometimes I couldn't see what to do. And they shouted instructions from me, not shouted, but they like gave me the verbal instructions from behind so that I knew how to do it. So that was really fun. Which that brought up an emotion. There was another time where my friend she was like getting low, she was dancing, she was really getting like all the millennial, where facial expressions, dances, and moves. Loved it, was having a good time, but then there was a part of me that was really sad because I didn't know how to do any of that shit because I'd never done it because I was in a cult. Sometimes there were songs that everybody was singing and everybody knew all the words to, and I didn't know them. Like, I know a lot of songs because I've spent a lot of time listening to music and catching up, but there were a lot of songs I didn't know. So sometimes there were songs where you had to bop. But guess what? I felt sad about it. So that's another thing. There were some love songs that came up sometimes, which was hard because, I haven't had a fairy tale love story. Sorry, I'm getting emotional again. I'm still working through it all, you guys. It's a lot. But guess what? I still had a really good time. Why? Not because I suppressed my emotions. You know what I did? I pulled out my tools. Every now and then, I took a moment, I went to the bathroom, and I breathed. I checked in with myself. I was like, what do I need in this moment? I needed to cry. So one time I allowed myself to start crying, but then I realized, wait, this cry needs to be a massive, hour-long cry. We're not doing that right now. We're having a good time. And so then I switched it up. And I switched it up to shaking it off. Literally shaking it off. Doing some breathing. And reminding myself about some truths. And telling myself, I won't ignore this. I promised myself. It's like later we will come back and we will revisit this. I promise you. I'm not going to ignore these emotions. And so, I was having fun, but I did have a little bit of a channel running on different emotions that were coming up. But I was still able to have a really good time. And I didn't crumble. I didn't fall apart. Old me would have. I know, based on different situations that have happened. Previously, when my CPTSD was really bad, if I had been in this scenario, I wouldn't have made it. I would have been an absolute disaster in the bathroom. Or I would have completely disassociated. But I didn't. I was able to manage emotions that came up. I was able to recognize them right away for what they were. I was able to have moments of compassion for myself. And I was still able to go out and have a good time and dance and sing songs and be part of my friend's beautiful moment that she spent so much time and money and effort on to create an experience for all of us to share together. And I was able to show up and do it. So I say all this to say, I hope you enjoyed the tea and el chisme. But also, I really hope the big takeaway here is that we don't ignore our emotions and that it is possible to have had, first of all, prolonged trauma and repeated trauma. That's what complex PTSD is. It just means it's been prolonged and or repeated a lot. And so it can be really tricky sometimes to pinpoint, like, why are you having a panic attack? Why are you having anxiety? Or why are you breaking down? It makes no sense. It does. And the beautiful thing about the body and the mind and the higher mind is that it works through things in layers. So things come, sometimes there's like, okay, if you ignore everything, like things are a hot giant pile and it's a big mess. That's one issue. But if you're working through things and you're healing and working through things, it comes in layers. And it's like, as soon as you work through something, the next thing that's on your system's agenda finally has space to emerge and come up. So the theme for me this past month has been the era from which I was in a cult, some of the emotions that I have not yet acknowledged, felt, or realized were still cooking on the back burner and waiting for me to handle. And that not only can you thoroughly resolve issues and work through them, just know a big piece of that is like being able to physically settle your body down and just having some tools for calming your system down. Sorry, I had to burp. So for example, if you have the money, and if this is you, if you like identify and can not identify, but like think, oh shit, that might be me. See if you can find someone that is a trauma-informed yoga therapist or somatic therapist, because they'll be able to teach you some things physically. And it was really great that I did that 8-week course, because over the course of 8 weeks, what did I do? I memorized some shit. So now I had some things I could do at home on my own. And I would go to the gym sometimes and I would spend an hour and a half at the gym just doing these. Or I'd do them in the backyard, or I'd do them upstairs. Because I had to pull these tools out a lot back then because it was pretty bad. So what are the tools? I'm trying to think if I should. Some quick ones. Google these. Bird dogs. And the reason bird dogs are like, you have your arm out and you're like extending the opposite leg and then you're pulling, look them up. What bird dogs do is they activate the right and left hemispheres of your brain and the different hemispheres of your body. Like your body has hemispheres as well, like left and right, like there's different polarities and things going on. But the main thing to remember is it's activating the left and right part of your brain. And that gives your body time to recalibrate itself and to turn things off and on in your brain over and over so that you break out of that spiral and that rumination. And helps you get back in your body. So you just breathe as you're doing them. Google how to breathe during them. And here's a little hack for while you're breathing is when you exhale, you know how you fog your glasses up to clean them? You want to do that while you exhale, because in the back of your throat, going all the way down to your gut and like through your whole body and to the back of your brain is what's called the vagus nerve. And that nerve is responsible for activating and settling like the part of your body that needs to know like, oh, it's safe and I can settle down. The thing is the parasympathetic system. Basically, that nerve calms you down. You want that shit to vibrate or to be stimulated. And like if you're cleaning your glasses, helps stimulate the vagus nerve. And also breathing while you're doing that exercise communicates to your body. Focus on the breath actually supporting your system. And that helps get you out of your head and into your body, because it's so much your body is getting the opportunity to kind of recalibrate and reintegrate and reset. And that's how you downgrade your system. That's my number one tool that I recommend to everyone is bird dogs. Look up exercises that are gentle, like for your hips. There's different ways that you can like get on your hands and on your feet, like on your back, and you can like sway your hips side to side. You can lay on your back and you have like your knees up like this, and you can bend your knees this way, that way, and you're laying there like this. It's opening up your chest. Look up just some gentle exercises for like moving your hips around and your back, and just do them slowly. Breathe while you're doing them. I write this down. Yoga with Adrienne. She's on YouTube. She does like 15, 20-minute yogas, and she has a lot of them that are specifically for soothing and settling your system. Do them over and over and over. I would recommend memorizing some of those. Some of those cycles that she gets you to do. Specifically, follow your intuition. See which ones will help you out. Trust the vibe. And look for things that are specifically for calming your system. Memorize them. So that way, when you're having a really shitty day, anxiety's coming up, you're having a panic attack, you want to reconnect to your intuition, go do those. Highly recommend. Another one is, so this is not a Game Boy. This is like a retro console that mimics a Game Boy. It wasn't that expensive. But if you have like a Switch or something like that, or some sort of video game system, download Tetris, OG Tetris. I was trying to do it on my phone. So even on the night that led to me finally pulling my yoga mat out, I was trying to play Tetris on my phone, but it keeps switching to ads. So it was like horrible. It was not working. So since then, I've made sure, this is Matt's, it's not even mine. I got him to show me where to download Tetris and make sure I had it on here so I could play it without ads. Tetris is a form of EMDR therapy, funnily enough, just like the bird dog. So EMDR activates the left and right hemispheres of your brain so that your neurons can start firing, so that you can, as you work through something with the therapist, it heals quicker and the neurons create like faster, thicker, better, stronger. If you've had something kind of traumatic or shitty happen, you don't know how to work through it yet, whatever. Maybe you don't know these physical moves yet. Although getting in the body is number one. Or maybe you're at work and you need something that works at work. Tetris. Tetris is a video game that actually, while you play it, is activating the left and right hemispheres of your brain. So, what's happening as you're sitting there playing Tetris? You're not ruminating. You're not thinking. You're not spiraling. You're just focused on the game. Your left and right hemispheres are kicking off and on. And you're giving your system time to recalibrate. And it's a good relaxing game, and play it for a good while. Are these going to heal your trauma? Are these going to heal complex PTSD? Are these guaranteed to stop a panic attack in its tracks? No, there's actually like a few more specific tools for that. But these are some that you could work on so that you have like a little mini toolkit for getting yourself back in your body and settling your body back down. Yoga with Adrienne, bird dogs, things that open your chest, things that like move your hips and let them relax. And I'm not talking about sexual stuff, like that'll actually trigger traumas. That's, if you're healed, like move on to those. Awesome. This is just to relax, because your hips are like an intersection in your body, and a lot gets trapped there and gets stuck there. So if you can do things that soften your hips, like swinging them side to side, moving your knees, like that, helps things get moving again, so the traffic jam can clear up a little bit and you can get from your head into your body and all the way down into your feet. Like, it just helps open the flow of your body back up again. Tetris. And start building a massive toolkit for being able to handle not just what life throws at us, but what life threw at us in the past that haunts us still today if we don't resolve it. And also, like, how do you even just survive day to day if your body's having, like, if you're being pumped full of adrenaline because you're walking around with a low-grade anxiety attack? I can't recommend these enough. Also, stuff happens. I feel like things happen and you just got to know what to do to help your body. Like, I have people, that I've helped because I've told them some of these tools. I have people who, like, the only thing they know is what I knew once upon a time. Once upon a time, all I could do was take medications, and that's fine. But that only works for so long. Like, I would recommend building a greater toolkit. And then also too, hopefully by sharing some of my story today, it's a little clearer on how stored memories, stored moments, stored scenarios in your mind and body can still literally be there and come up in unexpected ways. And let's heal this shit, homies. Let's figure out how to live life. And I'm walking proof that it's possible to heal from the chokehold of trauma. And even though it doesn't hold my life back anymore, there was a long stretch of time where I couldn't understand why I wasn't bouncing back and why I couldn't just go around and be a normal person, and why I didn't get the pep in my step back, and why I was mystified as to why my life wasn't moving forward after healing. Because I thought once I healed, boom, I'm going to do all the things and my life's going to bounce back. It fucking didn't. Until I started working on some new tools. So there's tools for trauma, and then there's tools for living beyond it. So this is one. I hope it helps. Please let me know if anything about my share today, like, was useful. Because I will then take that as proof and as added evidence for myself that it's worth it to show up and to share a little bit about my life in the hopes that it makes somebody else's life better or feel validated. Because I don't think that many of us have lived a charmed life. And if mine was extra wacky, then that just made me extra tenacious to learn some stuff. And now I know stuff that I can pass on and help make it all worth it. And that is that, my friends.